Hello, pre-calculus students. In this lesson and the next one, we're going to learn about composition of functions. It's like putting a function inside a function. So I'll share my screen with you and we'll get started. You can think of a function as having an input and an output. Usually if we have f of x, x is the input and f of x, or y, is the output. Well, let's talk about two functions, g and f. If we start with x, we're putting x into g, and our output is g of x. But then what we're going to do is we're going to take that very same output and make it the input of f. So you can see that g of x is inside because it's the input of f. Just like x is inside the parentheses because it's the input of g, g of x is the input of f. F of g of x is called a composite function. We've put one function inside another. And don't worry, we will discuss this much more in class. This is mostly for you to get your notes taken now. So here are two functions, f and g. Function f says take whatever's inside the parentheses and square it. Function g says take whatever is inside the parentheses and subtract 5 from it. So if we have f of g of x, well, what is the input of f? It's g of x, which is x minus 5. Now function f says take whatever's inside the parentheses and square it. So we're going to take x minus 5 and square it. By this stage in your math education, you know better than to say that this is x squared minus 25 or x squared plus 25. Now, if we take g of f of x, so we kind of swap the functions around a bit, the input of g is f of x, which is x squared. Now, g says take whatever's inside the parentheses and subtract 5 from it. Well, x squared is what's inside the parentheses. So we're going to subtract 5 from it. Clearly, composition of functions is not commutative. F of g is not the same as g of f. Boy, don't make that mistake. Here's another example. You have two functions, f and g. Function f says take whatever is inside the parentheses, subtract 5 from it, and then take the square root. Function g says take whatever is inside the parentheses, double it, and subtract 1. So you can see that g of x is what's inside the parentheses here. Function f says subtract 5 from it. So you subtract 5 from that, you get 2x minus 6, and then take the square root. In this one, f of x is inside the parentheses, and g of x says take whatever is inside the parentheses, double it, and subtract 1. So we're going to double that radical and subtract 1. There are three ways that we can write this. I prefer f of g of x. I prefer it with the parentheses. Makes it easier for me to see what is inside the parentheses. And you'll notice that we kind of work our way from inside out. You started with x, then you do g of x, and that becomes your output of function g, and then this becomes your input for f. So if you go back to the first slide, which I have right here, you see that we start with x, then we get g of x, then we get f of g of x. So I like to see it like this. Some people do f-o-g, f of g, like fog. But I like seeing the g of x inside the parentheses. It just makes it clearer for me. Some people just take this whole expression and just simplify it f of g. I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to trick you on things like this. I will pretty much always write things this way. Well, that was another short video, but we have a lot to discuss in class based on it. So have a great day.